Hello, you're watching the program Binding, and I am Andrea Lokhin. Meet our guest Svitlana Privalova. She teaches journalism and literature in university. She's a literary critic and literary editor of the Sky art publishing house. She also writes books. In other words, she's not just a charming young woman, but also a very interesting company. See for yourselves.
Словами, це не просто чарівна молода жінка, а ще й дуже цікавий співрозмовник. І зараз ви у цьому переконаєтеся.
For me, it's really very difficult to work as a lecturer. It's difficult to tell students something new, because one can find everything on Wikipedia, the internet, and so on.
Тепер все є Вікіпедія, інтернет, тощо.
And how should we maintain the attention of students? Students call you a weird teacher. You can dance, you can sing in front of students, you can do anything.
Може заспівати, вона може все, що завгодно. І знаєте, у вас такий...
I think you don't look weird, but you're a teacher who students want to communicate with. And it's a huge advantage for you.
Не те, що дивною, але тієї, на яку йдуть, і з якою спілкуються. Тобто, вам великий плюс.
Дуже дякую.
Thank you very much. Well, you know everything I do in this life is not professional. Today, I'm doing what I'm interested in and what I like to do. I left teaching for a year because after working during my internship at the publishing house, I returned to teaching part-time students. But I was bored. It's a shame for a teacher to be looking at the clock, wait for the class to end. As a lecturer, I didn't want to be worth salt.
Я подумала, що це сором для викладача, коли він розуміє, що він чекає цього моменту, коли пара скінчиться, так і він піде з аудиторії. Не хочеться їсти марно державні гроші, яких і так у неї небагато. Ну там, типу, приходити і обдурювати кого? Себе чи тих, хто...
I didn't want to fool my students.
Не обдуриш.
They see everything, though we sometimes think that a teacher leads. Well, not always.
Не впевнена, не завжди.
So I cannot describe myself as professional. Therefore, during a class, I can do and speak everything related to the topic, but what is interesting for me. But if I'm not interested, I have no motivation to work. When I left my job at the university, my colleagues invited me to teach in Odessa because it's interesting for me. I'm curious about the road, interesting students from another city.
Повернутися не на основну роботу, на основну вже не можу, мені якось цього мало викладання. Але я тепер ще й до Одеси їжджу викладати, типу ще й туди. Тому що мені цікава дорога.
And this encourages me to be interesting. I believe that when entering the classroom, a lecturer always should have questions. Otherwise, it's totally boring.
Бо коли є лише відповіді, це зовсім нудно.
А скажіть, що взагалі...
What is important for you now? Editing literary works or teaching? What's your priority?
Тощо, або викладання. Що на першому місці тепер?
Що на першому я навіть...
I wouldn't even say what my priority is. I would divide my jobs into equivalent parts. Yesterday, I lectured at the university and presented our publishing project at the ministry.
Так, і ми ходили там в міністерство подавати проект свій видавничий.
I never prioritize what is of great importance for me. They're equal for me. I combine editorial and teaching jobs with literature.
Тим паче воно поєднується все літературою.
At home, I message with translators, writers whom I know. They even write to me from abroad. And it's a kind of monolithic life. They're parts of the whole. They're like different dresses for different days.
Тому щось би одне я не виокремлювала, в кожному є свої цікавинки. Це як типу просто різні сукні на різні дні.
Знаєте, справді, був би я студентом, я був би...
If I were a student, I would be happy to have a lecturer like you. As Svitlana Privalova is a literary editor, she has absolutely clear professional views of literature. Now we will try to find out what is happening with literature in Ukraine.
Що відбувається в нас в країні із літературою? Світлано, що наразі відбувається з українською літературою? Точок зору багато, ви фахівець.
Svitlana, what you can say about Ukrainian literature as an expert? Share your point of view with us, because we don't see it from above. What's actually happening? Where is it moving? How have Maidan, the war, social networks changed everything?
Соціальні мережі, тощо. Факторів багато.
There are many factors. We'll feel that changes are taking place. But not everyone can go beyond this. Take a professional look and explain something to us.
Скажімо так, як професіонал, подивитися і розтлумачити.
I hope that you can succeed.
Я сподіваюся, що вам це вдасться.
We can talk about Ukrainian literature endlessly. And the most surprising thing is that it is actively developing. When I ask people during my literary stories which writers represent Ukrainian literature, they reel off the names of Lesa Ukrainka, Taras Shevchenko, Ivan Franko. And I consider this to be a great error. So as to make people more aware of modern Ukrainian literature, it's necessary for the state to invest money and support it.
Українська література. До сих пір всі називають Лесю Українку, Тараса Шевченка, Івана Франка. Це, я думаю,
It's the state that has the greatest influence on the population and points of contact with it. But at the same time, if I'm right, the highest attendance figure, 70,000 visitors, was recorded at the 2015 Arsenal Book Festival in Kyiv.
Але разом з тим, у 2015 році, якщо я не помилюсь, здається, була зафіксована рекордна кількість на Київському книжковому арсеналі. Це було 70 тисяч відвідувачів. На секундочку. Я думаю, що в той момент ми перейшли.
And I think it started a new stage in book development. Why? When even a person considers a visit to the book arsenal as a kind of fashion trip, and I think that's good.
Модний похід. Я не вважаю, що це погано. Прийти, взяти якусь книжку.
It's good to enrich your book collection with a new book, which will raise your interest, and you'll read it after some time.
Мати цікавість, чи просто маючи там якусь хвилину, колись її погортаєш, тобто...
That is, literature has become trendy, and I don't see that as a bad thing. I see it at the Lviv Publishers Forum.
Це відчувається, коли відбувається форум видавців.
If we touch upon trends in modern Ukrainian literature during the book arsenal, which will take place in late May, early June of this year, I would focus on some interesting
В
trends.
кінці травня, на початку червня цього року, я б для себе
Ukrainian literature is getting feminized.
Література у нас фемінізується. Так.
This feminization is reflected in the emergence of a great number of incredibly interesting female authors and poetesses. Katerina Kalitko comes to mind immediately. She is a great translator from the Balkan languages and author of poems and prose. This year, her book won the BBC Book of the Year prize.
Це чудово.
That's great, Svitlana, but it's necessary to prepare readers, the audience, to this literature. You can take any old poetry book, but you have to be prepared for this book.
Просто так з вулиці. Ви можете зайти, взяти книжку якихось віршів, але ви маєте бути підготовленими до цієї книжки.
Let's hope for advanced readers. While the audience is a little different, depending on the city,
якщо брати, розумієте, різні міста, то в різних містах, звичайно, і публіка трошки різниця. Приємно відстежувати, що...
It's nice to see people visit bookshops. For example, the e-bookstore often holds social projects and free readings. You can go and meet a poet in person? Yes, you can meet a poet in person. If you have a free evening, feel welcome to visit a free literary story. All that is required from you is the desire. Although it is often said that when person pays money for something, his attitude towards this is a bit different. But regardless of that, the members of public who attend are a bit different. They are listeners and readers of the older generation who were brought up on Shakespeare, performed by Pasternak.
Це і читачі, і слухачі такі більш дорослого, поважного віку, які ще росли на перекладах, типу так, Шекспіра у виконанні Пастернака, умовно кажучи, до тих, які сьогодні сприймають українську поезію, скажімо...
Or those who perceive Ukrainian poetry today. In order to prove my point, yesterday, 2 Ukrainian poets read their books at the e-bookshop on Kreshchatyk in the capital. There were Alexander Ivanets and Yurko Pozayak. Famous poet Yuri Lysenko took the pen name Yuri Pozayak. And to be honest, there was a full house. Although we came on time, there were no free places. Our first-year students were among those who visited the event. I made an announcement to them during the lecture. I presented this event everywhere, with the exception of Facebook. I invited them to come and meet living classics in person. I was very pleased that my students came along to listen. There were also those who constantly visit such events. There are over 30. It was a group of those who supported them and those who came intentionally.
Треба піти подивитися. Слід сказати, я була дуже втішена, що вони справді прийшли послухати. Це одна категорія, тобто студенти, так, і це перший курс, потім були більш дорослі, ті, хто постійно з'являється на літературних подіях, такі активні слухачі, вже ценз там 30, наприклад. Крім того, були постійні шанувальники письменників, компанія літературна їхня, так само, які їх підтримують. І ті,
That is, the audience was quite conscious. There were visitors standing on the second floor right up to the steps. This once again proves that there are different listeners of different ages, and this is encouraging.
Засвідчує те, що є різні слухачі різних вікових категорій, ну і це втішно.
What is required for them to come? It must be interesting. That is regardless of whether or not they're prepared. As for the classics, their names are well
Це вже
known.
ім'я, і ви вже йдете на ім'я.
The names of famous writers like Alexander Ivanets or Serhiy Zhadan attract the general public.
Сергій Жаданов, ти йдеш все одно слухати. А якщо це щось нове...
But how can a new writer raise interest? It can only be through rumors of their good works or advice from someone.
Що, мабуть, він непогано пише, сходіть. Або порада зі сторони.
Або просто мода.
Or just a trend. It has become fashionable to attend literary readings. I cannot remember them when I was young. Poetry was not popular. Literary stories were not elitist, but they were something isolated from society and far from being popular.
Елітарне, але це було щось принаймні дуже відокремлене від суспільства.
Today there are trendy writers, poems, bookstores. And it's really encouraging.
Модні письменники, модні вірші, модні книгарні тощо. І це справді тішить. От, Світлано, питання, я розумію, воно доволі провокативне, але...
I have a rather thought-provoking question to ask you. You've just named the holy trinity of Ukrainian literature, Taras Shevchenko, Lesya Ukrainka, Ivan Franko.
Тарас Шевченко, Леся Українка, Іван Франко. Так і є. Давайте зробимо щось, ну...
Let's do something provocative. Name me, in your opinion, the holy trinity or 5 writers in Ukrainian literature of the first and second decades of the 21st century.
Української літератури, скажімо так, першої, другої декади 21-го століття.
Give me the names of today's classic writers. No more than 5, please.
Не більше 5, будь ласка.
Не більше.
No more than 5. I would name just one. But if you'll accept it, I can do it, but it's a thankless task.
Можу, звичайно, назвати, хоча це невдячна.
Of course it's thankless, but I'll still take this opportunity.
Але я просто скористаюся нагодою.
It's your subjective decision, and you can say that I'm limiting you. But anyway, give me the names which, in your opinion, will be classics in Ukrainian literature in 100 years' time.
Які, як ви вважаєте, за 100 років будуть класичними іменами української літератури.
Давайте назвемо, першого і безперечно...
Let's name the first author, who is definitely ahead of the rest, and I think we're happy enough to be his contemporaries. It is, of course, Serhiy Zhadan. I regard him to be number 1.
Якщо говорити ще серед тих, кого я б виділяла в літературному процесі...
As for those involved in the literary process, I would single out Serhiy Tachchin. He's a poet from Vinnytsia.
Нехай це буде Сергій Татшин. Це вінницький поет.
This year, he was put forward for the Shevchenko Prize.
Сергій віршує.
Serhiy poetizes. His poetry is very lyrical, sunny, inspirational.
Поезія є дуже ліричною, вона є сонячною, натхненною.
What about any other names?
Ще одне.
One more thing. I've already mentioned Katerina
Я
Kalitko.
ще раз скажу, що Катерина Калитко.
I can say that Katerina Kalitko is a writer, poet and translator who hails from Vinnytsia.
Перекладач і потенціал у Каті.
In my opinion, she has great potential. And I will add, looking ahead, that the deepness, complexity, and multiple levels of her works echo with those of the greatest women in Ukrainian literature of the early part of the 20th century.
Вона перегукується з найбільшими жінками української літератури початку ХХ століття. Справді.
Ну, дякую.
Thank you. I think this will raise interest in our viewers. Someone may discover something new, but I also want to talk about your achievements in literature.
І про ваші здобутки в літературі теж.
And finally, I want to ask our guest about her own work. She's the author of a successful book, but now she's taking a break. We do not know what will happen next. Let's find out if she continues writing.
Зупинилася на цьому. Невідомо, що буде далі, чи будуть далі в неї нові твори. Зараз дізнаємося.
Розкажу про себе як про автора.
I'll tell you about myself as an author. As for my achievements in literature, they're mostly related to my work as an editor. It's connected with a publishing house because I initiated several series, and there are more series to come. Of course, I write like any person who reads a lot, who is deeply involved in this field. I cannot live without writing. Another thing is that there is a great deal of material. My book was published, if my memory serves me right, in 2014.
Дуже багато. В мене виходила книжка. Це був, Господи, дай Бог не помилитися, тому що я пам'ятаю все стосовно інших письменників, стосовно себе не дуже. 14 рік.
Each author must have his or her biographer.
Хтось він буде, я впевнений, в цьому з часом.
Виходила...
My book, which contains several stories, was published. It was quite personal. Now it seems to me that it was not written by me, and I have let it go. The book really does exist, and some readers accept a sequel to be released.
Як тепер я до цього тексту ставлюсь, мені взагалі здається, що це писала його не я.
Some people say that some stories were about them. A friend of mine wrote to tell me that the book was simply about her.
Її до сих пір, або чекаю, що буде продовження ще краще. Говорять, є кілька позицій. Це просто про мене. От нещодавно прочитала знайома, каже, ні, це книжка про мене.
Ну що ж.
Well, I must say that I'm sure your short notes and text will become a new hypostasis at some point in the future.
Перейде в нову іпостась, набере якості і, можливо,
I wish you all the best from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.